Philadelphia Eagles season is over, and to be honest, I am disappointed of how everything has finished and seeing how the team performed. And to be quite honest, changes do need to be made. Now, and probably in this video, I'm not going to be screaming and stuff like that. It's kind of not worth it. But I will tell you from what I've watched from all four quarters that yeah, you could definitely tell this team needs to start making some serious changes to be getting back to what they need to do and start winning Super Bowls and whatnot. And one of those changes in particular, which is kind of self-explanatory, is firing Kevin Patullo after this horrible of a first year that he's been under. And considering the fact he's a buddy of Nick Sirianni, which really kind of shows that this was not going to work for one. Because after they let Kellen Moore walk out of the building after the Super Bowl win in 2024, yeah, it kind of bit him in the rear end, so to speak. And if you watched how Kevin Patullo has scheming things, like it's a tale of two halves. Like a perfect example, like the Eagles could play like a solid first half of football, and then once the second half comes out, there's no adjustments. It's pretty much nothing. And you can definitely see why Ken Patullo obviously has been quote unquote marked as public enemy number one in the city of brotherly love because of the bullshit he has to do. And to be honest, I don't think he fucking game plans on a week-to-week basis. And the way I look at it is like, and we're seeing, and this is like also another perfect example of a guy like Scott Leffler, who, for those who don't know, Scott Leffler is their quarterbacks coach who has experience being an offensive coordinator, who has head coaching experience, knows how to call offensive plays. And if you look at the one game that Hurts has almost had 330 passing yards, what do you think was responsible of calling for, helping Hurts put up those numbers? It wasn't Kevin Patullo. That's for me. That's for sure. That's probably Scott Loeffler. But in all seriousness, though, the way how this franchise has finished the year was absolutely atrocious, pathetic. Like whatever you want to say, or whatever adjective you want to use to describe this 2025 Philadelphia Eagles season, like I wouldn't blame you for all, and hell, you throw some expletives in there too. I don't blame you for that. Secondly, if I'm Nick Sirianni and I know a guy the fuck in the front office and the ownership breathing down my neck because of the same bullshit he pulled in 2023, hiring his another good buddy in Brian Johnson, and we saw this was again. This is about another Brian Johnson situation 2.0 in the year 2000. Well, we're in years, throughout the 2025 season. And the way I look at this is that neither Nick or Kevin Patullo know how to game plan, scheme, other route concepts. It's like we've led the entire NFL in fucking hitch routes on a third and goddamn long, more times than I can fucking count. Another thing, what this coaching staff has, poorly done is how to utilize the running game. Like, for God's sakes, like right now we saw in this wild card game, probably the worst play call I've ever seen was 2nd and 18. You decided to call up an inside zone, which shocking. How many times we've seen that shit before? We've been seeing this for 18 weeks going into the wild card. Like, did we expect nothing different from the coaching staff, from Nick Sirianni, from Kevin Patullo? No. It's the same old bullshit, time in, time out. And if you think about it, both Nick and Kevin are the literal definitions of insanity. They're trying to do the same shit to expect a different result. And to be honest, it never ceases to amaze me how dumb both Nick and Kevin R. Kevin Patullo, that is. Because if you really look at how Kevin Patullo is not the smartest tool in the shed, for the lack of a better term. And if I'm Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, I'd be pissed. Because you wasted 18 weeks, not just from myself, but the rest of the Eagles nation of good football, of let's be real, probably one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. And to getting a 12-5 record to repeat as division champs, all right, cool. But to flame out that the way that you did, and considering you have your kicker can't make the simplest of fucking field goals, regardless of what fucking conditions you're in, that also doesn't fucking help either. Like I said, a lot of blame can be pointed at everybody, whether it could be from the quarterback, it could be from the offensive line, it could be from Nick, Kevin Patullo, for the love of God, from everybody. Nobody is safe. And going into this offseason, which officially starts today, if you're an Eagles fan, what kind of changes could the Philadelphia Eagles make? Like I said, self-explanatory number one is firing Kevin Patullo and have Howie pick the offensive coordinator, not Nick, because we've seen this time and time again. When Nick picks his OC, it's got to be somebody who he's good friends with. No, that doesn't need to happen no more. It does not work. I think the way I look at this, Nick Sirianni, to me, I think is so tone deaf to the point where it's like, yeah, you already knew. If you go back, like I said, go back to 2023, I think he already knew how fucked up he made that decision of having Ryan Johnson call plays. And that kind of forced the hand of both Howie and Jeffrey Lurie to bring in Kellen Moore from the Los Angeles Chargers to revitalize the offense. And, well, let's just see it and, how well that worked. Got them a Super Bowl, kicked the crap out of Kansas City, and now we're back to the same shit again. When Kellen Moore leaves, we got to find another offensive coordinator. What does Nick do? He decides, let me get another buddy of mine, and Kevin Patullo. Well, for the love of Christ, when that news announced before week 1 of the season, we all knew this was going to go downhill. And we didn't expect it to go downhill the way that it did. I did think most of us, we did expect to see a little bit of slight regression, but not to the fact that it took until week 18 to get Smitty his 1,000 yards. Barkley has been what he used to be. That offensive line is a shell that used to be. Like I said, a lot of shit has gone wrong. Yes, we can point fingers at Kevin Patullo. Sure, you can do that. But you also point the fingers at Howie Roseman for the shit he continues to fucking do. And he's afraid to do, is keep the necessary skill positions, under contract. Case in point, look at the right guard spot. Currently, we have Tyler Steen at right guard. Who do we have the year before that? Mekhi Becton. Becton showed what he can do. He can run block, and he can pass protect. Tyler Steen cannot. And then you got Lane Johnson. Look, I love Lane Johnson as a long-time Philadelphia Eagles fan. But at some point, he needs a legit replacement or a legit successor for the future, because who knows how much longer he has, because his availability when it comes to injuries has not been the best. It really shows throughout his entire career. He can never stay on the field long enough to where it really matters. Now, granted, he kind of stayed on the field for most of the entirety of last year before he kind of got hurt. And that's kind of crazy too. Now, if you think about it, it's crazy the fact that Johnson can somehow just continues, like after everybody has to go in the blue tent. It's like at this point, it's getting frustrating and pathetic to the fact that, you got one of the best right tackles in the game that can never stay on the field. Then look, you got to sell it back him and Fred Johnson. Cool, for the most part. But if you want to point the majority of the fingers you have to point to, there's, like I said, two guys. Howie Roseman, Kevin Patullo. Now, do I think Nick Sirianni's hot seat's going to get warmed up? most likely. And we're kind of seeing that. And this kind of goes back to what and thing with the entire AJ fucking drama. And, and we saw that when Jalen Hurts got in the face of both Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni. That really kind of tells you right then and there that, it's one of the signs that that this coaching staff is losing the locker room. Now, do I think Nick Sirianni is going to get fired outright? Probably not. But I will say there needs to be a microscope on Nick Sirianni at all goddamn times. Now, granted, I know they kind of gave Nick Sirianni an extension, but extension don't mean shit if your head coach can't really do the right things and have this franchise be successful as they are. But if you're an Eagles fan or just NFL fan in general, let me know in the comments of what you think of this wild card game, because to me, this really shows that this season was a complete and utter failure. That all being said, appreciate you guys hanging out, and I'll say go Birds.